what's going on, Dolphins fans, and a very happy Halloween and a very happy NFL trade deadline. So glad to have you along for this live edition of Dolphins Today. I am your host, Jake Riepma. Producer Jack is in the house. And if you saw our video from this morning, you know we told you we'd be live leading up to the conclusion of the NFL deadline. And bonus, we're going on live a half hour early because the NFL trade deadline is in full force. A couple of teams already making some big trades. We'll tell you who they are in just a moment. But, this is Dolphins Today. We're talking about the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins number one. So, very first question, very, very easy. Will the Dolphins make a trade today? Type 1 for yes. 0 for no. We got the countdown on of how much is left before that NFL trade deadline. So let me know in the comments, and let's get it going early. I got to know who's with me on Dolphins Today Live, a special NFL trade deadline edition. Oh, yeah. I knew Dolphins fans would show out. They always do. And look, you guys know I started at Chat Sports about 2 months ago. So first trade deadline for me, first trade deadline with you all. No place else I'd rather be. All right, let's see who's in the chat right now. I want to say hello to Daniel D, Alex Mincy, Stetson O, Die Hard Fins fan is in the chat. What's going on? Bernal Hupburn, Mac Wilson, Fins up. Dre Lewis, diehard Fins fan, Nathaniel Ross, Rob Bro, Stevens, Detlefs, Stetson O, Jimmy's mom. Hello, Jimmy's mom. What's up? Jack Bolduck, Daniel Barry Sports Highlights. Hey, Daniel D. Hudson. There we go. Michael Murray and Brad Belsky, diehard Fins fan. I already shouted him out once, but when you're a diehard Fins fan, there you go. Steven Detlefs. There we go. And I just saw it in the chat. Ezra Cleveland for a 6 would have been great for the Fins. That's one of the big deals that just went final moments ago. And look at there. Shout out producer Jack. I wish you guys could see this man build these graphics. It is like a wizard. It is unlike anything I've ever seen. He's like a Chat Sports minion. Just boom, 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 boom. It's faster than anything I've ever seen. But there he is. Give it up for producer Jack, keeping my head above water. Look, one and only. There he is.
Today's going to be a very exciting day. And don't worry, guys. We are going to have you covered with every trade that happens around the NFL, not just the Dolphins. So if a trade happens anywhere in the NFL for any team, we're going to have you covered. We got the trades coming in.
That's why you subscribe. Jack, and I got to say, I'm not giving ourselves a pat on the back, but when we did our trade discussion, trade rumors, and identified some possible trade targets for the Dolphins to pursue, Ezra Cleveland was the guy both you and I said would be one for the Miami Dolphins to pursue, and thinking that only cost them a 6th-round pick would have been nice. But you know what? I saw one comment in the chat that say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's kind of how I feel about our Dolphins team as well. But still plenty of time to see if Chris Grier and company make a move. Right now, the Dolphins' 2024 draft capital is as follows. Of course, they've got their 1st and 2nd round picks. Nothing in the 3rd and 4th, and then back to having a 6th round and 7th round. So, maybe that deal for Ezra Cleveland that yielded just a 6th round in return. But that's all right. Hindsight's 2020. We're not looking in the rear view mirror. Now that Ezra Cleveland is off the board and heading to Jacksonville, I got to ask you, let me know in the chat if there's another player out there that has been rumored to be being part of a trade that you want to see the Dolphins pursue. Let me know in the chat. I see Justin Simmons or some O-line depth. New York baseball guy said should have traded for Ezra Cleveland. Diehard Fins fan, appreciate the love for Jack and Jake. That does have a good ring to it. Jack and Jake, Jake and Jack. There we go. Ashton Down says Chase Young. Yes, the Commanders did say they're taking calls. So I think Chase Young would cost you quite a bit. Devin White, that's a linebacker that we talked about perhaps having some value in a trade. But listen, I think it's important to note, no matter what transpires over the next, we got our clock right there, next hour and 22 minutes, I like this Miami Dolphins team. And I like them a lot. And I'm not really going out on a limb considering they are 6-2. And in some power rankings, considered to be the best team in the AFC. Now, what I always like, no doubt about it, is Prize Picks. Prize Pick is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's also the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform, so you know it is the best. I tell you about Prize Picks every single week, and pretty proud of my picks from last week because I nailed it. Now, granted, it was all for the Dolphins. It was a little bit more on Tua's passing yards, a little bit more on Tyreek's receiving yards, and a little bit less on Mac Jones' projected passing yardage total. So I passed the ball, did a little chest pass over to producer Jack for this week's Prize Picks, and you know what? We're always on the same page. We're on the same wavelength. So this week, I'm going with more on Tua's projected passing yardage of 286.5 and less on Patrick Mahomes to 95.5. So that's how Prize Pick works. You don't need any crazy Excel complicated spreadsheet to try to gauge your picks on what you should do and what not. Prize Picks is very, very simple and easy. It's you versus the projected stats. You pick two or more, and then you have some fun. I want to have some fun. I want to have some fun, right? You always have fun with Prize Picks. And for being a Dolphins fan, we've got a $100 deposit match for you at prizepicks.com/CLNS. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS, a $100 deposit match. We always make it easy on you. That link will be in the description and the comments of today's video. prizepicks.com/CLNS. Breaking news on Dolphins Today. We've got a trade. Look out, folks. The San Francisco 49ers. Wow. Somebody had Chase Young in the comments. And Chase Young is no longer a Washington Commander. He is a San Francisco 49er. And that yields a third-round pick for the Commanders.
Can I just say
a conditional
quick,
third-round pick. What's up, Jack?
Is that like, did the 49ers just fleece the Commanders?
I was thinking, listen, while we've got plenty of time, we'll keep our eye out in case anything happens with the Dolphins. But let's take some time on this because I won't say I got ridiculed, but among the chat sports office, you guys know how it works. We've got hosts of a number of different channels. I said, Chase Young's good. Absolutely. I'm not taking anything away from him. The guy has had a little bit of a roller coaster start to his career, but the intangibles are there. Yes, he's a number 2 overall pick for a reason. But a lot of people were talking that he was going to yield a first round or at absolute worst, a second round pick in return. And I love Jack Sperry, our Washington Commanders host, does a tremendous job. That guy knows ball, one of the brightest football minds I know. And he said from the Commanders' perspective, they shouldn't accept anything less than a first-round pick, which is kind of bizarre now when you look at the details there. That is a conditional third-round pick that sends Chase Young to the 49ers. Now, I'm not a 49ers expert, but enjoy following that team as well. Chase Sr. hosts the 49ers Report and does a tremendous job. And he was pretty vocal on Twitter, Instagram, all of the social medias in calling out Nick Bosa, whose production since signing the richest, most lucrative contract in the National Football League for a non-quarterback has been limited at best. So Chase Young will help bolster that defensive line. And it's interesting because the 49ers go to a bye this week, so Chase Young will have a couple, really 2 weeks to get acclimated here. Not quite 2 full weeks, but you get the gist there. And that combination of him and Bosa on the defensive line for the 49ers, when you combine with Fred Warner, who they call him All-Pro Fred. I mean, I think he's one of the best linebackers, if not the best linebacker, sideline to sideline in the National Football League. That 49ers defense for the first, 5 weeks of the season looked like one of the best defenses in the NFL, but has certainly struggled in their last 3 games. So we get to put our general manager hat on, as we always do. Would you have made that trade if you were the Commanders? Type Y for yes or N for no. You're letting Chase Young go, former number 2 overall pick, for just a 3rd-round pick. Let me get some of these comments in here. Woo! Number 1, Willie Fins fan. Hey, shout out to Willie Fins. Chase Young, a confirmed bust. I don't think so. I actually look at this as, and he put a question mark, so he's saying, is Chase Young a confirmed bust? I look at it as an opportunity. If I'm Chase Young, it's a wake-up call saying, hey, news team, all of a sudden you go to arguably the 2nd or 3rd best team in the NFC, for sure, a team that has Super Bowl aspirations and a perennial power in that sense, despite their 3-game losing streak. But a new opportunity, a change of scenery for Chase Young to really establish his mark in the NFL and to improve upon the current legacy that he's leaving in the NFL, which I wouldn't say was bust, but certainly underachieved given the fact that he was the 2nd overall pick and not great with the timelines. I believe it was 2020 for sure as of late. It was 2020 and of course the collegiate career he had for Ohio State, tremendous defensive player for the Buckeyes as well. But I don't think you can label him a bust yet, but now change of scenery. We'll see if he can resurrect his career a little bit. A couple other questions or comments, I should say, from people in the chat. The rich get richer for the 49ers. Yeah, that defense is loaded. And what's interesting about the 49ers, and again, I'm not doing a deep dive on the 49ers, just talking ball here, is they have the most cap space in the NFL. So when you think about teams that have the flexibility to bring in a big-time player like Chase Young, the financials have to make sense. And the 49ers are one of those teams that have a lot of flexibility and cap space. And a lot of that is because they're not paying a quarterback anything. Remember, they unloaded the former, again, was that a 2nd overall pick? For sure, in the quarterback in Trey Lance, and was able to trade him earlier this season to the Cowboys. And so that opened up a lot of cap space. And then Brock Purdy, I know you probably know this already, but it's worth repeating. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of his draft class out of Iowa State, doesn't yield a big-time contract as well. So when you don't have a lot of money tied up in a quarterback, this gives you a lot of flexibility to bring in big-time trades like the 49ers did last year with Christian McCaffrey and now this year with Chase Young. All right, want to give some more shout-outs. Who's with me in the chat? Jay Freeman has entered the chat. What's good, my guy? Brian 35. How we doing? How we doing? Icy Dad, Bold 97, Brian Miller, Moonlight Brown. That's a fleece for San Fran. Their defense is monstrous. Yeah, I'm shocked that it's the 3rd round. Oh man, 49ers fans got to be pumped because 3rd round, that's a day 3 pick. And you just got Chase Young. So hopefully, if you're a 49ers fan, hopefully that Chase Young will find his footing in San Francisco. But we got an even bigger game to talk about. It's 6-2 versus 6-2. It's this Sunday, the early game in Germany, Frankfurt, Germany. Dolphins and Chiefs for the number 1 spot in the AFC. The winner of this game, if the season ended on Monday, which it doesn't, obviously. There's a lot of games to be played, but the Dolphins will head into a bye after this game. And if you believe the Aqua and Orange are going to get it done in Germany, let me know. Type those D's in the chat. If you think it's going to be the Chiefs, let me know by typing C. Hey, we got a $10 super chat from Brian Aycock. Let's go. That's my guy. All right. Welcome in. You know, anytime we got a live show going, we'll take your super chats with open arms. Much, much appreciated on behalf of producer Jack and myself. The super chats help keep the lights on here at Chat Sports. And the more revenue Dolphins Today brings in, the more content we're able to bring you. Daily Dolphins content, more studio time, more live shows like this. Typically, we go live on Wednesdays, but when it's the trade deadline, you know we had to hop on and let the people know what's good. And the support is greatly appreciated. So shout out Brian Aycock. Producer Jack nor I take any of the super chat money. It goes all into the Dolphins Today revenue stream. So don't even consider that, because the super chats go right to the Dolphins Today by Chat Sports page. So thank you, Brian Aycock. And it's a perfect time to segue into our super chat menu for today. All it takes for a little shout out on Dolphins Today is a $1 super chat. We're shouting out any super chat. A $5 super chat will give you a burning Dolphins hot take, because I got a couple of them stored. And then the $10 super chat is the Dolphin hat for 10 minutes. So we've reached that. And, you know, we're starting a brand new super chat board here on Dolphins Today. We're getting everybody's name on it. We got to get some Dolphin stickers for it as well. But if you want to be a part of Dolphins Today memorabilia, $20 gets your name on this Dolphins Today MVP board. And the Aqua Club is always open for business. We welcome our Aqua Club members with open arms and appreciate your support of the show. The Aqua Club is the highest and most prestigious honor of Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. So that $10 super chat means the Dolphins hat is coming on. There we go. Now, when this Dolphins hat comes on, because of the big ears / big headphones that I got going on, it's a little sideways. Let's try that again. It really presses down on the headphones, so you just got to kind of bear with me here. There we go. This looks like the Dolphins mascot, TD. There we go. I kind of like this look, actually. It still looks a little sideways. What could we do to it? Is that this side? There we go. Oh, what's going on? Brian Aycock, my man. Absolutely. Let's get him on the board. His name will be displayed loud and proud. Thank you for your support of Dolphins Today. Brian Aycock going front and center on our board right here. I'm writing it down right now. You have now joined the Dolphins Today MVP board with that $20 super chat. So thank you. If I could write faster, I'd already have you up there. Let's see. Today's date, 10/31. So there we go. There it is. Right on there. How about it? You got to love it. We also got the backside for this as well. We'll keep it going. All right. Timer is on for the Dolphins hat at an hour exactly. Brian, you're the man. Appreciate it. Thank you. Let's show some love to Brian in the chat. Type BA, badass Brian. How about that? BA, badass Brian. All right. Let's see what else we've got cooking on this NFL trade deadline. Let's get you caught up on the trades that have already happened. I got a little distracted with that Chase Young deal, because that is a big deal, sending him to the San Francisco 49ers. But this was from a couple of days ago, and the Seahawks made a move. The Seahawks, don't look now, but they're actually in first in the NFC West, and they, I believe, play the Niners coming up. But that's going to be, they play them twice in 3 weeks. But they received Leonard Williams, the defensive end, in exchange for the Giants receiving a 2024 and 2025, a second-round pick in 2024, and a fifth-round pick in 2025. So a little swap there. Earlier, also, this was, I believe, last week, but the Eagles received the All-Pro safety Kevin Byard from the Titans and sent Terrell Edmonds, the safety, over to Tennessee, as well as a 6th-round pick in 2024 and a 5th-round pick in 2024. Eagles continued to make some moves. They sent Kentavious Street, the defensive lineman, to the Falcons, as well as their 2025 7th-round pick in exchange for a 2024 6th-round pick. Also, another move that has gone down earlier this morning. This one was a little bit puzzling. I'll just scratch my head, my Dolphins head a little bit there. It was a little bit puzzling considering Jaylon Johnson for the Bears yesterday was granted permission to seek a trade, so you felt like the Bears might be in sell mode, but not so fast. They bring in Montez Sweat, an edge rusher from the Commanders, for a 2024 2nd-round pick. So the Commanders, it appears, I won't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but it does appear they're punting on this season a little bit and storing up that draft capital, having traded both their big-time edge rushers, first Montez Sweat earlier this morning, and then Chase Young just moments ago to the 49ers for a 3rd-round pick. This one was also relatively interesting. Also, when you consider Kirk Cousins, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, who had that Achilles injury on Sunday. So the Vikings went out and made a move to bring in Josh Dobbs, and as well as a conditional 7th-round pick from the Cardinals, who will get a 2024 6th-round pick from the Vikings. So you feel terrible for what happened to Kirk Cousins. He blew out the Achilles on natural grass, it should be noted, because when Aaron Rodgers blew out his Achilles, everyone said, we got to play every game on natural grass. Obviously, Lambeau Field, natural grass, where the game was being played, but sometimes injuries are unpreventable. I only say that because I think the National Football League is a game that is very violent. Injuries are going to happen. I feel terrible for Kirk Cousins and wish him all the best in a speedy recovery. The one we talked about at the beginning of the show was Ezra Cleveland, the former lineman for the Vikings, being shipped off to Jacksonville to play for the Jaguars in exchange for a 6th-round pick that Minnesota will receive. So Minnesota, again, I don't want to say they're punting on the season, but certainly in losing Kirk Cousins, that was a huge blow. And the big one, I would say this is the headliner for the NFL trade deadline thus far. 49ers add to their defense and bolster that defensive line with the addition of Chase Young from Washington in exchange for a 2024 3rd-round pick. Now, got you all caught up on the trades that have happened within the last week or so, and I want you to be honest. Should the Dolphins make a trade with time running out before the end of the deadline? Type Y for yes or N for no. Brian, 35, says, we will get an O-lineman, mark my words. Now, the Dolphins have been one of the most active teams at the trade deadline in years past, and because of that, and if you saw our video this morning, we talked about a little bit of the cap hell that the Dolphins are in right now and the way they've had to restructure some contracts to make room and hopefully afford the Dolphins the ability to sign a couple of future free agents. Christian Wilkins comes to mind because he'll be a free agent at the end of this season, as will Rob Hunt. So those are two guys that hopefully you'll find a way, you'll find that cap space to be able to sign them as well. Connor Williams is another one. All right, some of these trade proposals that are coming in are pretty funny, I'm not going to lie. Or maybe they're right on. Armstead and a 1st and 2nd and a 4th for Surtain Jr. And McGlinchey. All right, listen, McGlinchey is not great. I'll be honest. If you look at his Pro Football Focus grades, they're not good. He wasn't that good in San Francisco either. He's a penalty machine. I don't really want McGlinchey. But that said, stranger things have happened. He does, in fact, stay healthy. That's one good thing about him. All right, people asking, how do you send money on the Super Chat? I learned this the other day. It's that $ with the square. Yeah, rectangle with the $ at the bottom of the chat. So there you go. There you go. A couple of chats coming in. We couldn't have given up a third-round pick for Chase Young. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, I'm always surprised with the return for some of these players that are deemed to be maybe not superstars, but certainly held in high regards for their production in the National Football League. Chase Young would fit that category, and only a third-round pick. And then Ezra Cleveland, only a sixth-round pick? I mean, that guy has played really well for the Minnesota Vikings. So, oh my goodness! We've got a new member of the Aqua Club. Sometimes you just can't even believe what might transpire on the trade deadline. And even if the Dolphins don't make a move, we've got a new member of the Aqua Club, baby. A new member of the Aqua Club. It's Brian Aycock. And my goodness, you will remember this NFL trade deadline for the rest of your life. October 31st, 2023, Halloween, and there's nothing scary about joining the Aqua Club. In fact, it'll be the best thing you do all day, all week, probably all year as well. Congratulations, Badass Brian. Brian Aycock, that's what I'm calling him from here on out. Badass Brian has joined the Aqua Club, and everybody show him some love in the comments. Spam it. BA in the comments. He has joined the Aqua Club. And with that, Brian, you join a prestigious cast including Chad Jones, Lord Buddy Bear, David Breecount, Mystical, Robert Fritz, and a couple new members of the Aqua Club, Gerald Stokes, Jason Nugel, Nicholas Dixon, and now Badass Brian Aycock is in the Aqua Club. I take my Dolphins hat off to you, sir. Congratulations, and what a time. Welcome to the Aqua Club. There is none like you. Congratulations, my guy, Badass Brian. Oh, we got another super chat. It's Easy E1440 or maybe 1440. Easy E, what's up, my guy? Denver receives Nick Needham, 2024 second, 2024 fourth, or 2025 fourth, and the Dolphins receive Patrick Surtain the second. I love that. I think if Surtain gets moved, it's going to cost even a little bit more. I think Nick Needham's a good player, too, with him getting healthy now, so that's good to see. He could be a piece that is on the trade block. I know I've read the articles. I'm sure you have as well. Emmanuel Ogbah, the defensive end that signed a rather large contract extension last year, would be great if the Dolphins could move him. No disrespect to him. I think he's a productive player, but that deal is quite the hit on the cap, and the production just really hasn't met what he's being paid for. Now, shout out to Easy E. Shout out to the one and only Badass Brian Aycock. I want to tell you all about Game Time because we're taking a little break telling you about Game Time, but it's worth reminding you that Game Time is your one-stop shop for all of your ticketing needs, and not just to football games in the NFL or baseball. You know, we got the World Series going on right now, but great for concerts as well. Super easy to use app. It's a very visual display. You see a live photo, HD photo of exactly where you'll sit. So there's no diagrams, no renderings, nothing deceiving about the Game Time app. And the best part, what I think is a little bit underrated, because it's almost like Game Time rewards people that wait to the last minute, because they're giving you last minute deals all the way up until kickoff or until tip-off, the time of the event, whatever it may be. Game Time provides you with that lowest price on last-minute ticket deals. It is a winning combination all the way. And for being a Dolphins fan, a Dolphins subscriber, we've got a special deal for you. In fact, $20 off when you open an account and use that promo code FINSCHAT. That's FINSCHAT with a P, PHINSCHAT, and it's a $20 off with the promo code FINSCHAT. Now, the great thing about Game Time, it gives you last-minute tickets. So don't wait. It gives you the lowest price on last-minute tickets. So don't wait. Go to make your account right now. Terms do apply, but take the stress out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create that account. Terms apply. Use the promo code FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app, your one-stop shop for all of your ticket needs. $20 off with promo code FINSCHAT. Let's do some shout-outs here. Shout out your city. Let me know where you are watching from, because I want to give some shout-outs all the way here on Dolphins Today. We got producer Jack coming on in. What's going on?
All right, so I saw someone in the chat ask what the Aqua Club is, what you get for joining the Aqua Club. One, it is a prestige thing, like Sherry may say. You are above the rest. You are one of the legends of Dolphins Today. And also, you get shout-outs on Jake basically every video. So we shout you out on every video. We give you love. We show you support. And also, when you hop in the chat, we're hyping you up as an Aqua Club member. When an Aqua Club member hops in the chat, everyone knows they're there. So,
speaking of that, Jack Lauderay, we got another super chat coming in from Brian Aycock. Got to go back to work. That's all right. He's an Aqua Club member, and there he goes back to work. Brian, badass Brian, what a day. And yes, shout out to my Finn family from Columbia, South Carolina. Here's to you, Brian Aycock. We'll never forget today. Thanks for all your support of the show, and have a great rest of your day at work. That's right. Good luck with whatever you got going on. But that is the newest member of the Aqua Club, Brian Aycock. Shout out to you. You are the man. Thanks for making Dolphins Today part of your day and for joining the Aqua Club. All right, we're less than an hour from the conclusion of the trade deadline. I see it in the chat. We need offensive linemen. That's what everybody's been saying. This Dolphins offensive line has been beat up, if you will. And, we got a trade coming in, and it is not yet completely finalized as far as who the Browns will receive, but the Detroit Lions, the Motor City Cats, the Dan Campbell biting kneecaps, first place in the NFC North, Detroit Lions make a move to bring in Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now, this is really interesting because Donovan Peoples-Jones played ball at the University of Michigan. That's right. Jack Lauderay knew that, but sort of a homecoming for him. And, of course, the Lions already have Aiden Hutchinson, who they spent the second overall pick on out of the University of Michigan, and one more wide receiver for Jared Goff to work with in Donovan Peoples-Jones. Interesting trade there because the Lions were just on Monday Night Football. And if you know a lot about the Lions organization as a whole, history hasn't been too kind to them. They've never won an NFC North. Their last division title was in formerly the NFC Central, which no longer exists. That's how long it's been since the Lions have won a division title. But Brad Holmes as the general manager, Dan Campbell as the head coach in his third year, seems to have the ship moving in the right direction. 6-2 start for the first time in God knows how many years. And they didn't exactly look amazing yesterday on Monday Night Football, but 6-2 heading into the bye, and now the Lions have added Donovan Peoples-Jones. You pair him with Amon-Ra St. Brown as well as Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond, because remember it was even less than a couple. It was about a week ago that Marvin Jones stepped away from the game for the Lions, and so that was a loss to the receiver room, and the Lions decide to make the move to bring in Donovan Peoples-Jones to help mitigate that loss. I like the move for the Lions. Now, it'll be interesting to see what those finalized details are in terms of the compensation that the Browns will receive for the trade, but nonetheless, the Lions get a very serviceable wide receiver in Donovan Peoples-Jones. All right, let's do it. We want to up that likes. We're at 71. We got to 71 without me even saying the word like. So imagine what we can do when, producer Jack, myself, we push you a little bit and say, like that video. Well, why do we like it, Jake? Well, one, doesn't cost you anything. Takes two, probably even less than that. I'll say it takes 1 second. It supports the channel of Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, and those YouTube robots, that YouTube algorithm, they say, wow, a lot of people are liking this video. Let's get it to more Dolphins fans. And that video just enters the internet jet stream, and next thing you know, we, instead of 466 people watching, we've got tens of thousands of our closest Dolphins friends tuning in as well. There we go. Have the Dolphins made it to Germany yet? So glad you asked, because I saw this on the X, Twitter, Osphere, whatever you want to call it. I thought it was very interesting. Now, Charles Goldman, not the biggest name or anything. He writes for a platform called A to Z Sports, and they cover the NFL. But what was interesting is what he tweeted out. The Dolphins have already arrived in Germany. So that's been confirmed. And if you follow the Dolphins Twitter account, you saw the pictures of them packing up and flying to Germany right away. They flew out right after the game on Sunday and said, let's get across the pond overseas. Now, meanwhile, this is the interesting part. The Chiefs won't leave for Germany until Thursday afternoon. Lots of experience and research went into this decision. And then for Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, it's a little bit different of an approach than Andy Reid and the Chiefs took. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm not a sleep doctor. I'm not a time zone wizard or any of that. I just think for conversation's sake, it is interesting that one team chose to fly out. I'm not saying which one's right or wrong. It's just they're two drastically different approaches to playing a game overseas. The Dolphins left Sunday, and the Chiefs will fly in on Thursday. So there you have it. I mean, again, I don't think it necessarily means anything one way or the other, just certainly noteworthy that the two teams had drastically different approaches to how they wanted to handle the routine aspect of playing a game in Germany. All right. What's going on? Joe Carrington, how are you? Brian35. Easy E's in the chat. What's up? Moonlight's in the chat as well. And my goodness, it is great to have Fins fans in the chat. Sherry May, how about that? Ruben Hernandez, let's go. A lot of support for Chris Grier. I couldn't agree with you more. I think he's done a great job in setting up this Miami Dolphins organization to be successful. Shout out to Chris Grier. All right. Now, you guys know we talk a lot about this on Dolphins Today, and that is the hope for subscriptions, because subscriptions help us grow the channel, and it helps us bring more Dolphins content today. And that's what it's all about in the Dolphins Today world. We have these meetings with our bosses each and every week. And you know what? Like Jack and I said, we'll always be transparent with you. They leveled with us a little bit last week and said, why isn't the Dolphins channel growing anymore? And that was after the Sunday night loss. Now, a week later, the Dolphins won on Sunday against the Patriots, and we're seeing that growth continue to accelerate, and that's what it's all about. So shout out to everybody that has already subscribed. We've got our next goal in front of us of 49K, and look, we can get to 49K, we can get to 50K, and boy, does a 50 burger sound good. So help us get to 49,000 subscribers, the largest Dolphins YouTube, I don't even say page or channel, Dolphins community, because that's what we are here on Dolphins Today. I'm a Dolphins fan. You're a Dolphins fan. He's a Dolphins fan. She's a Dolphins fan. And we love following the Aqua and Orange together. We've got our live watch parties, our live shows, and most importantly, daily Dolphins content. So if you haven't yet, subscribe, or if you know a Dolphins friend or a friend that's a Dolphins fan, tell them to subscribe to the channel. We'd greatly appreciate it because we love doing this each and every day, and we want to continue to reach every Dolphins fan that's out there, and that's why you subscribe. All right. How we doing, chat? How we doing, Dolphins? How we doing, Dolphins fans? We are getting close to the end of the NFL trade deadline as we continue to scan and look for any breaking news. How did they do this before Twitter, by the way? I guess it's X now, regardless, whatever you want to call it. I mean, could you imagine fax machines? The Michael Jordan fax, I'm back. That would be wild. That would be wild. All right. Are you excited for the 2023 NFL trade deadline? If you are, type me in the comments and I will shout you out. Oh, before we do that, there's a badass in the chat, a badass that wants to see the Dolphins hat back on. And Brian Aycock, you say jump and I say how high. How about that? Work can wait. That's what I'm talking about. Badass Brian is back and the hat is back on. I look like the Dolphins mascot TD right now because my Dolphins hat, I want it to not be crooked. It's just, there it goes. There we go. And the way these headphones are shaped doesn't necessarily lend itself to this Dolphins hat, but I think it's a good look. I'm going to walk around Chat Sports like this for the next 10 minutes. Shout out to Badass Brian and supporting the show. You are the man, B.A., my guy. Appreciate the love, appreciate the support. And for you, again, you say jump, I say how high. The Dolphins hat is on. And there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Who's the man? Brian Aycock is the man. Woo! And what's great about Dolphins Today as a community, we look after each other. We cheer for each other. We support each other. I'm tight with a lot of people that's in this chat, and I appreciate that. We always put my social media handles out there so you can always get in touch with me. I love reading direct messages or tweets or comments or whatever it is in support of Dolphins Today. It's so fun to all of us commemorate as Dolphins fans, come one, come all, that type of thing. All right, Ruckus, Monty Johnson. What if we trade for an athletic tight end? Could be a passing threat and extra security blanket for Tua. Yeah, I don't hate that. Someone mentioned Hunter Henry from the Patriots. I mean, I wouldn't hate that, but I think Durham Smythe has done a good job. And then as his backup, Julian Hill out of Campbell College has done really well and is one of the higher-graded blocking tight ends on Pro Football Focus. So I like what Julian Hill has done as a backup tight end, and Durham Smythe has been steady as well. Listen, if nothing happens in the next 43 minutes, I'll be the first to say I like this Dolphins roster. I think, obviously, the weapons on offense speak for themselves, and the production has followed. First in scoring offense. Jake, don't bore us with this again. We get it, but I'm going to anyways. First in scoring offense, first in rushing offense, first in points per game. Can't do much better than that. Defensively, yes, the scoring defense hasn't been great. Currently 25th in the NFL, but the trend doesn't happen overnight. This defense is trending in the right direction. I thought, yes, against Philadelphia, they gave up 31 points, but twice they were put in a tough situation because of turnovers by the offense. They responded well there, and they've been getting a lot of pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, and that is the sustained recipe for success. The Dolphins are third in the NFL in total sacks, and they've been getting the hurries as well, which can obviously force bad throws by the opposition. So, mailbag time is coming up. Are we going to do it now? All right. Ask some questions. You use that hashtag Dolphins, and we will answer the questions with our mailbag. Josh Pfeiffer is in the chat, as is Thunderstruck. What's going on? We've got a question. How about that? From Anthony Manzano. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Do you see the Dolphins making any trades today, and who do you want them to make a trade for? Well, good news, Anthony. We've been doing trade rumor videos all the way up to the deadline. So if you want even more expanded, comprehensive coverage of possible trade targets, check out the channel. But in short, I will answer it this way. I'll start with an ESPN insider, Diana Rossini, who was formerly with ESPN, now with The Athletic. She put a tweet out a couple days ago that had interesting language around what the Dolphins are doing, saying, quote, they have poked around at the running back position, meaning maybe they've made some calls, maybe they fielded some calls, but that poked around terminology was interesting. And I, along with, I would say, all of our viewers, didn't really see the need for the Dolphins to make a trade for a running back when you already have, obviously, Raheem Mostert as your number one. And right now, I'd say Jeff Wilson Jr. is that number two, Savon Ahmed at number three, and Devon Achane, the rookie phenom who took this league by storm in his first 4 games, is coming back after the bye week. So when you think about a healthy running back room for the Dolphins, I don't think that's where you want to make a trade, despite there being a number of big-name running backs that could have potentially been available. Derrick Henry most notably comes to mind, as does Dalvin Cook. Now, I read the comments. A lot of people wanted a defensive player the Dolphins to trade for. Pat Surtain from the Denver Broncos is the obvious choice there because he is exceptional out of Alabama. He's a different-making impact player corner, but I think the asking price might be a little too high there. Josie Jewell, a linebacker for the Denver Broncos that's just kind of, I wouldn't say had a mediocre career, but he's just kind of had a sustained, solid career as a linebacker, and I don't think he'd be any kind of immediate impact player like you saw what Jalen Ramsey did in his first game back. I don't think it's that type of splash, but it's a guy that could provide sustainability and a little bit of depth for that linebacker room. So Josie Jewell's somebody that I have my eye on, as, again, Denver you thought was going to be selling like a full-on garage sale, but maybe after they beat the Chiefs, they thought, hey, maybe there's still time to turn this around. Let's hold on to our guys. So the other ones, offensive line, I really liked Ezra Cleveland, but he just got dealt from the Vikings to the Jags for a 6th-round pick, which I saw it in the chat, and I feel the same way. If that was the asking price, I wouldn't have minded the Dolphins pulling the trigger there. But Ezra Cleveland no longer on the block. Trent Brown for the Patriots is a big old body, but more of a tackle type, and I think the Dolphins would be looking more for interior. But you know what? That left side, left tackle, left guard, and center, for that matter, have all been in and out with injuries for the Dolphins this year, so I wouldn't hate some depth on the offensive line. Cody Whitehair for the Chicago Bears, another offensive lineman that could potentially be moved here in the next 38 minutes. So there you go. Mr. Know It 2. You think they will get Patrick Surtain the second? This one really had a lot of momentum for the Dolphins after they beat the Broncos 70-20, because his father, then Patrick Surtain Sr., tweeted out that he was essentially having his talents wasted in Denver, and you thought for sure they would make a trade before the deadline. But never say never. There's still 38 minutes before the trade deadline, but I really, if I'm being honest, I would be shocked. Maybe I'm wrong, but Denver has made it pretty clear the asking price is at an all-time high for a guy like Patrick Surtain, who's very, very young, early 20s. He's only been in the league a couple of years. Everything's still in front of him. And yes, the Broncos aren't in a position now to be working towards the future, but with the amount of good years that Surtain has left, you'd think he still factors into their future plans. So if I'm being honest, which I always am, I don't think the Dolphins will get him. But stranger things have happened. Woo! Jack Lauderay, my guy. We got to know from the people who they got, D for Dolphins or C for Chiefs. I better see a lot of D's in the chat. Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are 37 minutes away from the NFL trade deadline. All right? You know I love my deals, so I'm going to make a deal. We have a certain suit here. It is Halloween.
There you go.
So I'll make a little special Halloween deal for all of you. If we get to $200 in Super Chats, so we're $50 away. $200 in Super Chats, the suit will come on.
Wow. That's it? Usually the asking price is for the Dolphin suit similar to the asking price
You want me to go up to 300?
Patrick Surtain.
You want me to go up to 300?
No, I like it. I
Okay.
like it. We are incentivizing trades today, just like we're incentivizing Super Chats to make it easy for Jack Lauderay to put on the Dolphin suit. There we go. I love Halloween. In fact, it was my favorite holiday as a kid growing up. I never really stopped dressing up. I loved trick-or-treating because I loved candy, and that was the acceptable day to eat your weight in candy. So, and all right, 10-minute timer has concluded. The hat is officially coming off because we've got a little Dolphins-Chiefs preview for you.
Sherry, don't worry. The suit will be here Sunday morning. Don't worry. But it's Halloween. I want to dress up. I want to have a good time.
That Sunday morning watch party is going to be early, and so that means I've always had espresso for the early games, and we are going. I might have to make it the way, and it is in Germany. I don't know my German history as far as coffee is concerned, but I do know in Italy the coffee is significantly stronger. They make fun of Americans for having their coffee watered down. So I'm not sure exactly what the coffee, rhyme or reason is in Germany, but we can make it a little bit stronger for Sunday since it's an early game. That's what I'm talking about. That's 5 a.m. for those in Alaska. Yeah, that's an early one. How about that? I spent 5 years in Germany near Frankfurt, came back last year, and of course, when I come back, they're playing in Frankfurt. I'm sorry. No way. Oh, this guy's unbelievable. The hat is going back on. Look at the red marks it's causing on my face, but I don't care. Brian Aycock, you say jump, I say how high. Badass Brian is back in the Super Chat, and that means the Dolphin suit is coming on. Jack Lauderay is going to shake that fin for us, and we are going to get wild on a live edition trade deadline special here on Dolphins Today. What a guy. Brian Aycock. Spam those BAs in the chat. What a guy. This guy is unbelievable. Man, oh man. When you do these live shows, you just never know what could happen. And Brian Aycock, out of left field, has established himself as not only an Aqua Club member, but a prestigious high roller member of Dolphins Today. And for that, we appreciate you. And there it is. The Dolphins suit is on, and we are getting wild on a Dolphins Today live edition on Halloween. 30 minutes until the trade deadline. Jack Lauderay is shaking that fin. Fins up all the way. Brian Aycock, we appreciate it. There's nothing like it. We miss you too on Sundays, my friend. We miss you. But yeah, maybe he can tune in for a little bit before he heads to work. But the Dolphins are in Germany. It's a wild Sunday, and we've got a live Dolphins Today. And thank you, Brian Aycock, for helping us reach our goal. That a guy, BA all the way. My man. Wow. He's an ATM machine. That's right. Oh, that is funny. That is good stuff. All right, we're going to recap some of the trade. And then we will get into a Dolphins preview against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. So we're going to run through these trades. Earlier this morning, Montez Sweat was shipped from to Chicago from Washington. And the Commanders receive a 2024 second-round pick. And so the Bears bolstering up that defensive line with the addition of the edge rusher, which is kind of odd because I kind of thought the Bears were more in sell mode, as I'm sure you did too. And if you look at that product on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers, you might scratch your head a little bit. Maybe they should be in sell mode. But remember, they've got both their first-round pick this coming year and the Panthers' first-round pick. So maybe they're trying to stack up some talent on the field to combine with that draft capital. But I'm not the GM for the Bears. It certainly was a trade that made many raise an eyebrow a little bit. But nonetheless, a big name, Montez Sweat, goes from Washington to Chicago in exchange for a second-round pick in 2024. The Vikings have been very active today. First, replacing the injured Kirk Cousins with Josh Dobbs, as well as a 2024 conditional seventh-round pick, in exchange sending their sixth-round pick of 2024 to the Arizona Cardinals. So Kirk Cousins goes out with the blown Achilles, gone for the rest of the year, perhaps even longer. Joshua Dobbs, the new quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. This one also involving the Minnesota Vikings. I wish we had a Dolphins logo up there because I said earlier in the week, Ezra Cleveland's a guy that could be on his way out of Minnesota. He's a productive offensive lineman, and the stats back it up. But instead, the Jaguars receive Ezra Cleveland, the offensive guard. In exchange, they send their sixth-round pick to the Minnesota Vikings. So the Jags, also 6-2, just like the Dolphins, just got better at the offensive line position with the addition of Ezra Cleveland. From offensive line to defensive line, the San Francisco 49ers have made a trade for Chase Young. The edge rusher will now join Bosa as a part of that haunted defensive line. And in fact, Nick Bosa and Chase Young, along with Fred Warner, the middle linebacker, really represent a solid defense for the San Francisco 49ers. And all they had to do to receive Chase Young was send Washington their 2024 third-round pick. So Washington clearly in sell mode, and as a result, Montez Sweat is a Bear, and Chase Young is a San Francisco 49er. To the Motor City, where the Lions received Donovan Peoples-Jones in a trade with the Browns. The wide receiver who played college football at Michigan is now a member of the Honolulu Blue and Silver. Donovan Peoples-Jones, the newest Detroit Lions, to help improve that wide receiver room, pair him with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, and Khalif Raymond. And the Browns receive a 2025 sixth-round pick. That's all it took to get Donovan Peoples-Jones to Detroit. So we've got about 28 minutes until the trade deadline. Time is winding down. Time is running out for Chris Grier and the Dolphins front office to make any kind of trade. What say you? Type 1 if you think they're going to make a trade. Type 0 if you don't. See a lot of people in the chat. Saying 0 for no, 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 no. And I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it.
We have a report, Jake.
Oh, boy.
We have a report from Ian Rappaport. After a day of exploration, Jaylon Johnson is expected to stay in Chicago.
Interesting. So maybe the Bears are making a push. What have the Bears won? 1 game or 2 games?
What? I don't know. Off the
Not-
top of my head, I don't know.
Not enough. The Lions are 6-2 and
well-
owning that division.
Tyson. So are they making a push with Tyson Bagent?
Yeah.
Or like, are they confident Fields will be back in like 2 weeks and then they'll win the rest of their games? I don't know about that one, Jim.
Yeah, it is puzzling in Chicago to say the least. They've had stuff. I'm blanking on his name, but they had the defensive coordinator resign in the middle of the season. Yes, good call. There's just been a lot of stuff. Obviously, the Dolphins did a deal with the Bears earlier this season in bringing Chase Claypool to Miami. So they have been active on both ends. But now Chicago picks up Montez Sweat and, by all indications, are holding on to Jaylon Johnson as well. We do have a trade alert, so just stay tuned. The Green Bay Packers are sending Rasul Douglas to the Buffalo Bills. So a trade that impacts the AFC East. The Bills have had their fair share of injuries on defense, and now they're adding Rasul Douglas from Green Bay. Douglas, a guy that's been a productive member of the Green Bay secondary, and with the Packers clearly out of it and trying to figure things out as far as the future of their franchise. Not sure if Jordan Love is going to be the guy in Green Bay. They'll go ahead and send Rasul Douglas to Buffalo. And that's important because the Dolphins still have a game remaining against Buffalo, the final week of the regular season, where they'll be back at Hard Rock Stadium, obviously hoping to resolve and revenge that loss from earlier in the season on the road against Buffalo, and the Bills will have Rasul Douglas for that game. Wow, lots going on the trade deadline, but where there's always good stuff going on is at Prize Picks, and specifically prizepicks.com/CLNS. Got to tell you all about the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, because there are options out there, but frankly, you don't need them. You need one option, and that is Prize Picks, because it's the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform, and it's so fun doing this every Sunday. You don't even have to wait for Sunday. I did it for Thursday Night Football last week, done it for Monday Night Football, but here's how it works. You can forget all the complicated spreadsheets and the 20-leg parlay. No. You don't need any of that. Prize Picks is so much more fun and easy to comprehend. You're picking more or less on a player's projected stat line, and that's it. So forget going against these big, huge pools with experts and sharks in it. It's just you versus the projections, the stat projections. So as I do it every Sunday, I am all aboard the Miami Dolphins, always picking more over the projected stat total. So I've got more with Tua Tagovailoa's projected pass yards at 286.5 and less for the opponent, Patrick Mahomes. He's coming off arguably one of his worst games as a pro, and the Dolphins defense are going to continue that trend. I'm picking less for his projected passing yards of 295.5. So there you have it. That's how easy it is, and prizepicks.com/CLNS is the place to go. We've got a $100 deposit match waiting for you when you sign up at prizepicks.com/CLNS. We always make it easy for you. Producer Jack's got the link in the chat. But if you want a $100 deposit match, all you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. And thanks for your support of Dolphins Today. And in return, we've got a $100 deposit match for you at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Now, the details on the trade have been finalized as far as who the Bills receive and that is Rasul Douglas. Now, still working on the details on the Packers end of the deal, but obviously you'd expect them to receive some sort of draft capital moving forward, which sounds like a win-win all the way around for both these teams. The Bills' defense needed some help in the secondary after the injuries, and Rasul Douglas fits exactly that. So appreciate everybody tuning into this edition of Dolphins Today, a special live Halloween trade deadline edition. We are rapidly approaching the conclusion of the trade deadline. We're going to have a Dolphins versus Chiefs preview coming up in a couple of minutes. But before we do that, you got to let me know in the chat who you got. D for Dolphins, C for Chiefs. Oh, this guy's unbelievable. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. The hat is going back on because Brian Aycock is unconscious. This guy's one of a kind. I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. Hey, swisheroo, baby. The Dolphins hat, TD. I should just cover my eyes like this. And now, actually, I can't even see the monitors in here anymore, but I probably look more like a Dolphin. So, shout out to Brian Aycock. Badass Brian. You say jump, I say how high. And the $10 super chat puts the hat back on. And Brian Aycock is the newest member of the Dolphins Today Aqua Club with his $100 donation via super chat to the channel, and that helps us bring you more Dolphins content, wall-to-wall coverage of the Miami Dolphins, wall-to-wall NFL coverage, special live shows like we've got today during the trade deadline, and of course, our live watch parties, with the next one being very, very early. I almost lost my Dolphins hat there. The next one very, very early coming up on Sunday as Miami is in Germany to take on the Chiefs, a battle of 6-2 teams. Woo! That's what I'm talking about.
All right, Jake, let's do this, all right? All right. Let's film this preview as the trade deadline gets closer. Sound good with that? And this is what we're going to do. I don't want you wearing the hat during the preview.
Uh-oh.
Okay?
Okay.
So this is what we're going to do. All right? Here's how much time is left before the trade deadline. 20 minutes. All right?
All right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to film this preview. When the preview is done, however much time is left, doesn't matter if it's more than 10 minutes, however much time is left, Jake will wear the hat until the trade deadline's over. How does that sound? Does that work with everyone?
That sounds good.
Sound good?
We got 20 minutes to the conclusion of this trade deadline.
We got 20 minutes. I want to get this preview done just so we have it done and we got it rolling for everybody. And so we can give you guys this content in case they make a trade. We don't want to miss a trade. So let's get this done, and then you'll wear the hat for 10, 15, however many minutes are left. Sound good? Sound good, everyone? Does that work?
Yeah. That sounds real good. It sounds real good. You know what? Let's wait till after the deadline. Let's wait. Actually, well, no, let's do the preview. I don't think the preview will be 20 minutes, right? Yeah, let's do the preview. Let's do the preview, and then the Dolphins hat is going back on. How about that? Wow, we got every now and then we're on the fly here. It's like changing on the fly. Line change. And before we get into this preview, gotcha. All right. I love you guys. There's nothing like Dolphins Today. There is nothing like it. A lot of people in the chat wanting the Dolphins to trade for an O lineman. Or here's a new one, Jeremy Chin. We talked all about him on 2 weeks ago. Oh, we got another super chat. It's Brian Aycock. He's got to go for real this time. And you know what, Brian? I'll wear the hat for 2 more minutes because you, my friend, were the star of this edition of Dolphins Today. We will always remember the 2023 trade deadline as the Brian Aycock deadline, the day he joined the Aqua Club and the day he super chatted the Dolphins live stream like no other. Shout out to Brian Aycock, one of a kind. Give it up for BA as he leaves the chat and returns to work. And we appreciate your support of Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. Spam those BAs in the comments. And I've been wearing this Dolphins hat for a long, long time. All compliments of Brian Aycock. He also joined the Dolphins Today Super Chat MVP board. We've got his name on there. The trifecta from Brian Aycock here today. He joins the Aqua Club. He's on the MVP board, and he's got me wearing this Dolphins hat nonstop. So shout out to BA all the way. What a guy, what a guy, what a guy, what a guy, what a guy. Brian 35, Sherry Mays in the chat, Vincent Welshman. And we are getting closer and closer to the end of the trade deadline. But again, I think we're happy with this Dolphins roster. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Seems like that's the motto for Chris Grier and the front office. But let's get into it. Sounds good. We are about to do a preview of Dolphins Chiefs, and don't go anywhere because we'll wrap up our live show as well at the conclusion of the trade deadline. So don't go anywhere. The preview of Dolphins Chiefs starts right now. What a week coming up for the Miami Dolphins, 6-2 against the 6-2 Chiefs. And oh yeah, the game's being played in Germany. So the Dolphins need to win on the field to take over the best record in the AFC. And we need to win in the sub battle because right now we are losing to the Chiefs report. We've had 15 new subs this week. The Chiefs report with 32. So help us beat the Chiefs on the field and in the sub department. Subscribe to Dolphins Today right now for daily Dolphins coverage and a preview of Dolphins versus Chiefs. Listen, it is a huge game coming up for both the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. You could argue this is the marquee matchup in Week 9. And oh yes, one more added wrinkle. It's being played at a neutral site in Germany, Frankfurt, Germany. And what a spectacle that will be on Sunday. It's a 9:30 a.m. kickoff, so that's an early one. And you take a look at the point spread. This one, experts say the Chiefs are the favorite at a narrow 2.5 spread and a pretty high-scoring game expected with the over-under being set at 50. And why wouldn't it be? The Dolphins have the best offense in the National Football League at 33.9 points per game. They're 6-2 on the season. Defensively, 25th right now in scoring defense, allowing 25.5 points per game. And on the other side, the Kansas City Chiefs. The defense has actually been the identity of this team, which is kind of crazy when you consider Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are on the other side of the football. But, of course, they've been fantastic as well. But Kansas City's defense currently second, allowing just 16.1 points per game. So, yes, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are coming off arguably their worst game together. Patrick Mahomes didn't have a touchdown against the Broncos. They lost to the Broncos for the first time in Mahomes' career. And the Dolphins are coming off a win against a division rival in the Patriots at home at Hard Rock Stadium. But this game's in Germany. It's the 6-2 Dolphins versus the 6-2 Chiefs. You got to let me know in the comments who you got. Type D for Dolphins or C for Chiefs. And I did mention the Chiefs are coming off in many experts' minds, an unexplainable loss to the Denver Broncos. That's right. The Denver Broncos, who the Miami Dolphins beat in week 3, 70-20. 70-20. This Dolphins offense scored 10 touchdowns against the Broncos. This Chiefs offense scored zilch, zero, nada. It was insane to watch. In fact, I'm still rewatching the film to make sure what I saw actually happened. It was the first loss of Patrick Mahomes in his career to the Denver Broncos. It was the Chiefs' first loss to the Broncos since 2015. It's 2023, people. Bizarre. And Patrick Mahomes failed to throw a touchdown for the first time in several years since 2021. And his 8 interceptions are tied for the most in the NFL. So Patrick Mahomes, yes, he is as dynamic as they get, but he has had his fair share of struggles in 2023. But I'll caution you, and I think everybody knows this already, not so fast. Patrick Mahomes is still elite. And while they haven't always put it together yet this season, the Chiefs are still 6-2, an impressive record, and vying for that number 1 seed in the AFC. So just because he had a bad game against the Broncos, there was a lot of reports that he was under the weather, and now, probably more than ever, he'll be looking for that bounce-back game against the Miami Dolphins, which means this is a prime opportunity for the Dolphins defense to have a prove-it game, a chance to make their mark. And this Dolphins team as a whole, for that matter, because let's not forget, the narrative around this Dolphins team is what, Jake? Tell us. That's right. The Dolphins can't beat a good team. You've heard it. I've heard it. Of course, we've all heard this Dolphins team can't beat the good team. They only beat bad teams. So 6-2 versus 6-2, this is a chance for Miami to shut up the haters, and I expect to see them do that on Sunday. But I want to ask you, what do you expect? Put on your prediction hat and predict that score for me in the comments. Dolphins 6-2, Chiefs 6-2. Let me know in the comments your score prediction. Coming up next, we're going to talk about what exactly you should be watching for on Sunday and the intriguing pieces of the matchup in this one. We're going to break it all down. But first, I want to tell you about Prize Picks and shout them out because they are a proud presenting sponsor of Dolphins Today. And Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform, and it's the best. Listen, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but you know I am 100% honest when I tell you that Prize Picks is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It adds a whole nother wrinkle to watching and consuming sports. It is a blast, let me tell you. And I got pretty good with these Prize Picks. I'm not going to lie. I was 3 for 3 last Sunday in my Prize Picks. So I passed the ball over to producer Jack, and I said, Jack, what do you got for me this week on the Prize Picks? And we're keeping it simple this week, folks, which I love. We're picking more on Tua Tagovailoa's projected passing yards and less on Patrick Mahomes' passing yards. So I led by example in this one and showing you how Prize Picks works, but it's very simple. You pick more or less on a player's projected stat line. That can be receiving yards, touchdowns, passing yards, rushing yards. You name it, Prize Picks has it and an entire portfolio of awesome picks to make for any given game. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS for a $100 deposit match. That's right, $100 deposit match waiting for you at prizepicks.com/CLNS. We've got the link for you in the description of today's video, so we make it really easy for you. But one more time, just in case you weren't paying attention, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Couple of things to watch for in this AFC showdown. AFC West versus AFC East, played in Germany. And anytime it's a neutral site, especially when it's across the pond and overseas, the travel itinerary or the travel logistics come into play. And so I'm keeping my eye on which team handles the change in scenery the best. Earlier, this from Charles Goldman of A to Z Sports. Again, this doesn't necessarily tell us one thing or the other, but what it does tell us is that the two teams have drastically different approaches to this game in Germany. The Dolphins already in Germany. In fact, they left on Sunday. The Chiefs, meanwhile, won't leave for Germany until Thursday afternoon. So I think Charles asked a good question here. What gives? Lots of experience and research goes into these types of decisions, and I'm not a sleep expert or a doctor or anything crazy like that. I just think it's interesting to note that the two teams had drastically different approaches to the game in Germany. So I've got my eye on who can handle the change in scenery better. Now, this is an elite quarterback matchup. In fact, it's the type of matchup you circle on the calendar and say, we are watching generationally good quarterbacks. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes has a little bit more impressive and decorated of a resume as far as the Super Bowls and the MVPs are concerned, but Tua's been the unquestioned better quarterback this year. We showed you that graphic a couple days ago that Tua is first in practically every quarterback statistical category. But look at the completion percentage. The yards are impressive. The touchdowns are there. And both of these quarterbacks are a little bit higher in that interception category than they'd like to be. They've turned the ball over a couple times. And again, Patrick Mahomes coming off arguably one of his worst games of his career. And so it's a bounce-back opportunity for him. And meanwhile, Tua Tagovailoa with his receivers of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, maybe even we'll see Chase Claypool, Durham Smythe has caught some balls. Cedric Wilson caught his first touchdown last Sunday against the Patriots. Braxton Berrios has been in there as well. Point being, Tua's playing at an MVP level, and to be the best, you've got to dethrone the best, which has been Patrick Mahomes. I've got my eyes on that elite quarterback matchup. The Dolphins' run game is another interesting component to the game plan because they have the number one rushing offense in the NFL, they being the Miami Dolphins, but the last 2 weeks against Miami and then on Sunday against the Patriots, it's been a little bit below the level of output that's become expected. Raheem Mostert still has been on a tear, though. He, in fact, is tied for the most touchdowns in the NFL with Christian McCaffrey. And look at the numbers there in the game against the Patriots. The yardage was well below his season average, but he still was able to find the end zone. Meanwhile, Jeff Wilson Jr. has stepped into that RB2 position. So those two guys have to add that extra wrinkle. The offense can't be one-dimensional. You got to be able to run it. And against the Eagles in that loss on Sunday Night Football, the Dolphins' offense was very one-dimensional. They were a little bit better this following Sunday against the Patriots, but still not to the level that we're coming to expect. And they'll have a tough task because this Chiefs defense, I said it earlier, has been the identity of this Kansas City Chiefs team in their 6-2 start, which is a little bit different than Chiefs teams in the past. But look at the notes there on the Kansas City Chiefs defense. They're allowing the second least amount of points in the NFL at just 16.1 points per game. And they also get after you. They're opportunistic. They force 15 turnovers, just tied for the fifth most. That's been the strength of this Chiefs team. They've won a lot of games because of their defense. So I've got my eyes on that. And like I mentioned, it is a prove-it game for the Dolphins defense. The Chiefs defense, they've got a proven resume. The Dolphins defense, meanwhile, has been a little bit of a roller coaster. Some really good games, and then some other games leaves you scratching your head wondering if Vic Fangio is the guy to be the defensive coordinator. But I believe this Dolphins defense is trending in the right direction. They're starting to get a lot more production out of Bradley Chubb and that entire defensive line. They're getting pressure on quarterbacks. They're third in the NFL in sacks. And oh yeah, by the way, Jalen Ramsey is back and looking amazing. He had the interception in his debut on Sunday. So I've said my thoughts. I got to hear from you. Sound off in the comments. I've told you what I'm watching for. You let me know. The Dolphins win on Sunday if they do what? How do the Dolphins get it done against the Chiefs and move to 7-2? Let me know in the comments. Want to thank everybody for tuning in to our preview of Dolphins Chiefs. One thing's for sure, AFC supremacy is up for grabs in the AFC. It's 6-2 versus 6-2. The winner of this game will be in the driver's seat for the number one overall seed and, of course, a first-round bye. So lots on the line, and it's in Germany. We're going to have a live watch party for the game. We always do, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single thing. Dolphins versus Chiefs, 6-2 versus 6-2, AFC East versus AFC West. It's a showdown in Germany. Can't wait for Sunday. Join us then, Dolphins versus Chiefs. Woo! 3 minutes away from the NFL trade deadline. Jack Lauderay, the producer of today's show, has my back because he's kept me covered on any of the breaking news. We love producer Jack for that. And meanwhile, I'm up here having a good time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't stop the party. So we haven't missed anything. That's good. That means we made the right decision because we were wondering if we should do the preview before the conclusion of the trade deadline or after. We made the right decision. And I love you guys. Yeah, I'm catching up a little bit on the chat. See some compliments in there, maybe some not so nice things, but Dolphins Today fans are the best. All right. Oh my, producer Jack's in my ear and said, you'll never believe it, but we are 19 subs away from our goal. We said we got to get to 48.5. Can we do it? 19 more subs. So how many people? We got nearly 600 people watching. As soon as we get to 48.5, that Dolphins hat is going back on. Can we do it before the conclusion of the trade deadline? That clock is right there in front of you, counting it down to see if we can get to 48.5 before the conclusion of the trade deadline. We got a little jump there. That's what I'm talking about. So come on. Come on. We got to put the Dolphins hat back on. Here we go. Need those subscriptions because we're going to get to 48.5. I can feel it. 15 away. Now we're at 48.485. I got the Dolphins. I've got the. I can't even talk. That's what happens when you've been talking for almost an hour and a half. You're going to stumble from time to time. There we go. 48.87. I got the Dolphins hat on. I love the Dolphins today. I love the Dolphins fans. I love our team. I don't care if we didn't make a trade today. There's still a minute before the deadline. I love this team. There we go. There we go. 48.488. We need 12 more. And that's all right. Help us ease the pain of no trades on the deadline. But that's okay. Like I said, I like this Dolphins team. We're 11 away. I love this Dolphins team. I don't think a trade was necessary. There were some rumors out there, but I'm glad this Dolphins team stayed pat. There we go. All right. We are now 10 away, and that's what I'm talking about. The trade deadline, count it down with me. The Dolphins do not make a trade. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's the end of the trade deadline. The Dolphins. I like the roster that they have. In fact, I love the roster that they have. And now that the deadline is behind us, let's roll up our sleeves and let's get ready for Kansas City and Germany. And let's get ready to take on that Super Bowl. Because when you say Miami, we're talking Super Bowl.
I will say, as we see with most trade deadlines, sometimes a trade or two will trickle on through 10, 15 minutes after the deadline. So
we're not going anywhere.
We're probably done, but you never know. There might be a trade or two that trickle in. The fax machines take a little too long. So we'll see what happens. But we do still have a Q&A coming up, so we'll be live for a little bit longer as well.
We'll be live for a little bit longer. And a good point in the chat that I also want to point out that the Dolphins did make a trade a couple weeks ago for Chase Claypool. So despite the trade not happening on the deadline, they've still been active to boost up this roster. It just took place a little bit earlier than we might have expected. All right. The subs are climbing, and we are so close to 48.5. A few more subs away. Sherry May, as always, is spot on in the chat. She says just a few more subs. Come on, people. There we go. Brian Gonzalez is in the chat. 5 away. Joe Carrington's in the chat. Shout out to Joe. Tristan Ruiz Nicholson. Preston Farmer. I appreciate you guys. We got 5 more. 5 more. And we always ask because we need to get the pulse of the Dolphins fan base. Did the Dolphins need to make a trade? Type Y for yes or N for no. Here's where I would say N. I don't think they needed to make a trade. And my goodness, if they could have unloaded Emmanuel Ogbah, that was a Bleacher Report article that linked him to as a possible trade piece. I wouldn't have been mad because he has underachieved a little bit and kind of worked himself out of the defensive end rotation. There's just guys that have been playing better ball than him, and he has that hefty contract. So if we could have moved him, that would have been great, but I'm sure a lot of teams not wanting to take on that contract given with the lack of production. There was a rumor that maybe Cleveland would be interested, as that's where Ogbah began his career, but it just did not happen. All right, absolutely. I'm getting it right now. All right, now I'm good. All right. I want to tell you about Game Time, a proud presenting sponsor of Dolphins Today, and simply the best. The best and one-stop shop for all of your live events and ticketing needs. Game Time takes the stress out of buying tickets, and you can rest assured you're always getting the lowest price, even if it's last minute, guaranteed. What I love about Game Time is it's super easy to use. It's a couple of clicks, and it takes all the stress out of buying tickets for live events, because we've all had those experiences where it hasn't gone really well, and then you're like, I'm never using this app again, and that's why you need Game Time, because you'll never say that when it comes to Game Time. And what I also love about it is you get that nice high-res photo of where your seat will be, and so there's no deception. It takes the guesswork out of it, and like I mentioned, you get that last-minute lowest price guaranteed. And for being a Fins fan, for being a supporter of the Miami Dolphins and Dolphins Today subscriber, we've got a special deal for you, $20 off your first purchase with that promo code FINSCHAT. And now it's FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT. And don't worry, we always make it easy on you and put that link right in the description of today's video. So it's FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT, for $20 off when you create an account. So don't wait. Snag the tickets without any stress by using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code FINSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply, but again, it's really simple. You create an account, you redeem the code using FINSCHAT as your code, PHINSCHAT, for that $20 off. Download the Game Time app for last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. That's the Game Time guaranteed. I love them. You will too. I gotta know your one-word reaction to not making a trade at the deadline, to staying pat. Let me know in the comments what your one-word reaction is. A lot of us kind of saw this coming, I think. So not necessarily a surprise per se, but just kind of that one-word reaction of how you're feeling at the given moment, given the fact that no trade was made. I'm going to go with expected. It kind of played out the way we thought it would. The Dolphins were somewhat a part of some rumors. I've mentioned the Diana Russini NFL Insider tweet about the Dolphins kind of poking around, to use her words. But overall, I just really didn't see any kind of blockbuster deal being made, especially when you consider the fact that the Dolphins already moved some pieces around and brought in Chase Claypool earlier in the season. And there really wasn't, when you look at the position group from group to group, yes, the offensive line has been banged up, but none of them have been season-ending injuries. Teron Armstead, able to come off of injured reserve and has made the trip to Germany and could potentially play on Sunday against the Chiefs. Devon Achane, he's coming off IR after the bye week. His injury, not season-ending. Chris Brooks, another running back, potentially coming off IR. But again, he was a little bit buried on the depth chart as a whole. However, a couple of more offensive linemen. Isaiah Wynn, his injury not expected to be season-ending. And this offensive line has really played well in 6 of the 8 games. It's no coincidence that when this offensive line plays well, the Dolphins win. They're 6-0. And the 2 games the offensive line has struggled, they are 0-2. And yes, again, a lot of people wanted the Dolphins to make a trade for an offensive lineman, but I feel confident about this group moving forward. And even though there's been some moving pieces, they haven't really lacked the production, especially when you consider the fact that this offensive line has been the Achilles heel for the Miami Dolphins in years past. It's certainly not that case so far this season. So the Dolphins need to get healthy, which they will. And on the defensive side, you get Jalen Ramsey back. What an impact he provided. He had the interception in his first game as a Dolphin. You should get Xavier Howard back on the other side, who's led the NFL in interceptions 2 years of his career. And Xavier Howard is a ball-hawking corner. Those 2 guys, I believe, would be 2 of the better corners in the NFL. And perhaps Jalen Ramsey is the best corner in the NFL. To see him healthy and the playmaking abilities that he has was a welcome sight for the Aqua and Orange. Now, safety-wise, you should get Javon Holland back in the coming weeks, maybe even as soon as this Sunday against the Chiefs. He was in concussion protocol following the Eagles game and missed the game on Sunday against the New England Patriots. But again, not something that's season-ending for the Miami Dolphins. So I like the secondary. There was some chatter about possibly trading for a linebacker, but Jerome Baker and David Long have played pretty well. They had the pick 6 against the Eagles on Sunday and played really well against the Patriots. And again, Andrew Van Ginkel, Bradley Chubb on the edge have been good, as well as the interior defensive line of Christian Wilkins and Zach Steeler. So I like where this Dolphins team is at right now. I really do. And so, yes, it was expected that they did not make a deal, but also I'm completely fine with it. Let's see. Producer Jack, are we live tomorrow too? Let me check with the bosses, but I believe we are. Yes, we are live. So the fun doesn't stop today. That's right. We'll be live tomorrow as well. So raise the roof, 2 claps. Looking forward to it. We are, in fact, live. How about that? Fins Up says, I don't feel good about our O-line because really going to be proud of beating bad teams. Our line is horrible with a top 10 defense. It's the truth. I'm nowhere near satisfied with the O-line. Now, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the fact that this, and I guess the point you're making is it hasn't been the case against good teams, and obviously the Dolphins are going to get where they want to go. They have to start factoring in beating good teams. Of course they do. So, with the limited sample size, the 2 games, the 2 losses, I'm not going to, become totally upset and alarmed that the offensive line hasn't played well in those games. Now, if that trend continues and you got some pretty important games coming up, you've got the game against the Chiefs coming right up, of course. And, of course, you got the Cowboys later on, and those might be some games that if the offensive line is manhandled in those games, I might look back and say, Fins Up, you were right, I was wrong. But we're not quite there yet. I say at 6-2 in a position to have the best record in the AFC is a good spot to be in. And you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers and the way this Dolphins offensive line has protected Tua, the way they've been able to run the ball, because there's a lot of different components to blocking as an offensive line and the performance of an offensive lineman, pass blocking, run blocking, not getting penalized, all that good stuff. And this, for the most part, by and large, Dolphins' offensive line has exceeded many people's expectations. All right, let's get into the mailbag. It's time for We're close. Let's get your questions in. We got about 330 people watching at this moment in time. We've been live with you for almost 2 hours. All right, running out of steam a little bit, but I got some magic fuel right here to get me going. You got to stay hydrated. All right.
All right. The trade deadline has passed. Doesn't look like any more trades are going to come in, so we want to answer your questions. We want to hear your thoughts. You want to vent. You want to say why it was good, why it was bad. Use hashtag Dolphins or Super Chat, and we'll get you on a show for this mailbag cut. But you got to use hashtag Dolphins. We're not going to be able to pull it if you don't use hashtag Dolphins. So, trade deadline is passed. Time to push for the playoffs. Big game against the Chiefs. Use hashtag Dolphins. We'll get you on the video. But you got to get your questions in, because word on the street is if we don't get questions, we just won't do a mailbag and we'll just wait till tomorrow. That's what I'm hearing. So get some questions in and we'll do a mailbag.
That might be the move. A little mailbag. Yes. Yes. All right, we are going to do a Dolphins mailbag. I love a Dolphins mailbag. You love a Dolphins mailbag. It's an Ask Anything kind of mailbag. And all you got to do is use the hashtag Dolphins to get your question answered on Dolphins Today. Yes. Let's get it started with a little mailbag. And we will do so in just a moment. There we go. All set. Let's do it now. Use hashtag Dolphins to get your questions answered, or super chat us anytime to get on the show. It's a Dolphins mailbag, and it's happening right now. Let's do it. It is the Dolphins mailbag. Ask anything. No questions are off limits. I'm your host, Jake Riepma, and I'm pumped to be with you on Dolphins Today. So go ahead and smash that like button to like this video. If you want the Dolphins to beat the Chiefs, it's an AFC showdown. AFC East versus AFC West, 6-2 versus 6-2. The best record in the AFC on the line on Sunday. And oh yeah, the game's being played in Germany. How about that? It's the Miami Dolphins versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Let me know if you want the Dolphins to win by liking this video. Do it now. Smash that like button. First question on our Ask Anything mailbag. Fins up. Love the name, by the way. Fins up all the way. Well, I don't feel good about our O-line because people really going to be proud of beating bad teams. Our line is horrible with a top 10 defense. It's the truth. I'm nowhere near satisfied with the O-line. Listen, this is, I know it's a mailbag, so there's not a lot of dialogue here, but fins up, I would ask you, what would you be satisfied with if you're not satisfied with the NFL's top scoring offense, top rushing offense, top passing offense, and the fact that they have held Tua or kept Tua upright and clean for the majority of the season. They have some of the best Pro Football Focus blocking grades and pass blocking grades as well. And yes, the offensive line has been beat up. Armstead's on IR, Wynn's on IR. Connor Williams has missed the last 2 games. Rob Jones left the game. Austin Jackson has pretty much been the only guy that hasn't missed a lot of time. And there were some penalties in that game against the Eagles. Lester Cotton had a couple of bad penalties, but he was much, much better against New England. And so, have they been perfect? Well, they've been damn close. So even though they've been bad in the 2 losses, I think the narrative there remains to be seen, and a lot of people are pushing that narrative that the Dolphins can't beat good teams, and maybe they are correct. But 2 losses on the season, and both of those losses you're not going to put completely on the offensive line. And you know what? If a team goes undefeated, 17-0, a perfect record, then yeah, you could say, wow, this offensive line was good. But 2 losses doesn't mean I'm ready to just put all the blame on the offensive line. In fact, I will defend them that they have overachieved to this point in this season, especially when you consider where that offensive line was a year ago. They were the Achilles heel of this team. They couldn't protect Tua. Obviously, he had his fair share of injuries because the offensive line was unable to protect him. And knock on wood, his health, Tua, that is, has been tremendous because the offensive line has protected him. And yes, the offensive line has taken a beating, and there's been some moving parts. They played over 20 guys on the offensive line. That's going to happen in the NFL. But for what they've gone through, the adversity they've faced, they've weathered the storm, and I think they've been actually an asset of this team, and specifically the offense, as opposed to a detriment. Tristan Ruiz, what's up, my guy? Said, is David Long okay? Yeah, David Long fought some of the injury bug in that game against the Patriots. And Wednesday is where you'll hear Mike McDaniel talk about the injury report, give a little update on who's practiced, who's not. And I'm not sure if the Dolphins are sticking to the exact same typical schedule with the game being played in Germany, but I think we'll know a lot more in terms of who's planning to play on Wednesday or on Sunday. On Wednesday, we'll get that injury report and we'll take a look and to see whether or not David Long is okay. But he's not facing any kind of serious season-ending injury, but I do hope that he'll be able to play on Sunday against the Chiefs. Speaking of Sunday against the Chiefs, I got to ask you, who do you got? Type D for Dolphins or C for Chiefs in this intense AFC showdown? It's going to be great in Germany. Let's see. We've got more questions to get to. This is from M. Miller 916. What will our record be at the end of the season? I love it. Look into the crystal ball a little bit. Let's get crazy with a prediction. And at 6-2 right now, you got the Chiefs game. You got the Cowboys. I should have the schedule memorized. You're going to play the Bills the last week of the season. You still got the Jets twice. And I believe there's a lot of wins stacking up for the Miami Dolphins. So I'm going to go ahead and say 13-4 with a first-round bye. There you go. 13-4 is my prediction for how this Dolphins team will end up. And really, that's almost to stay on pace with the 6-2 start. We're not quite at the halfway point. Remember, the NFL now plays 17 games instead of the 16. And so 8 games in the book with 9 more to go, including that bye week, and time for the Dolphins to get even more healthy and get Devon Achane back as he continues his pursuit of the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Part of our pursuit includes Prize Picks, because I love Prize Picks. They're a proud presenting sponsor of today's Dolphins Today show, and we thank them for their support of the show. And what's awesome about Prize Picks is we've got a special deal for you, a $100 deposit match when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. But first, I got to tell you how to play. It's really easy. If I can do it, anybody can do it, because Prize Picks provides a library of projected stats on a number of different games, not just football either. They've got NBA stuff rolling out, World Series still going on. You can get in on any kind of prize pick you want, and you simply pick more or less of a player's projected stat line. And tons of different options out there. I know a couple of weeks ago, The Tyreek Hill more or less of scoring a touchdown was at 0.5, and I smashed that more. And, of course, he scored more. So you got to combine 2 or more picks on your prize picks for your final card, and you're picking more or less. So this week, going with more on Tua Tagovailoa's projected passing yards at 286.5 and less on Patrick Mahomes' passing yards at 295.5. So counting on the Dolphins' defense to slow down Mahomes, and I can always count on Tua Tagovailoa to pass for more than his projected total. So that's how it works, and you too can get started at prizepicks.com/CLNS. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. We've got a $100 deposit match for you, and all you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. And because we love you and we care about you, we'll put that link in the description as well. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS for a $100 deposit match. Jackson loves the Miami Dolphins. Jack Lauderay, Jake Riepma, we both love the Miami Dolphins as well. You think DJ Fluker will ever be coming to Miami? It's hard to, now that the trade deadline has passed, it's hard to foresee a scenario in which that happens. So I'm just going to go, unfortunately, it's kind of a short answer. I wish I had more. It's a yes or no question, but I really don't see it happening. I think he's satisfied in the spot now. And for the Dolphins, I just don't think that's a move that you make. Anthony Manzano, MOB, says, do you think the Dolphins have too much faith in what they got? That's why they have stand pat during the deadline. I don't think it's too much faith. I think it's the appropriate amount of faith, because it's not like they ignored the roster once the season began. They did make a trade to bring in Chase Claypool, and I think he can add another wrinkle to the offense. Now, granted, that trade was done several weeks ago before the trade deadline, and he had his first catch in a Dolphins uniform on Sunday against the Patriots, and I like what he brings to the offense. So I think Chris Grier in the front office looked at this roster long and hard and thought, okay, we've got a lot of people out right now, and none of them seem to be season-ending injuries. They're coming back, so you count on that. This is already a team that's in pretty good position as far as depth, and a team that doesn't have its full arsenal of draft capital moving forward, meaning they don't have those 3rd and 4th round picks. So they wanted to hold on to the draft picks that they do. And so I think all of those factors contributed to Chris Grier and the Dolphins staying put at the deadline. Mark Smith, X has no trade value, old and pricey. He will get cut post June 1st next season. I mean, old has such negative connotation. I won't say he's old. He's been in this league a while, and if this groin injury continues to persist, he had the groin injury last year, I get the point that you're trying to make. He is a player that yields a high paycheck, and that's quite the hit on the salary cap space, but the production has been there. Before he got injured, he had a couple of big interceptions. He's led the NFL in interceptions before. I think when you combine him with Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey are 2 premier cornerbacks. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey, you could make the case as the best cornerback in the NFL, and Xavier Howard, a nice complementary piece for Vic Fangio. So I disagree on Xavier Howard getting cut, but you know what? We'll have that conversation in June, and if it does come into fruition, then Mark, I will tell you you were right and I was wrong. And how about this? We are so close to our goal. Maybe it will happen live while we're on this mailbag, but we just need one more subscriber to get to 48.5. And then our next goal is 49K, which I believe we can make happen sooner rather than later. But help us get to 48.5 first. We've only got one more subscriber to get there. So if you're watching now and you haven't subscribed, do so now. Smash that subscribe button. And you can do so as well at youtube.com/DolphinsNews. Sherry May has the question, is Connor going to be activated for Sunday? I believe he will be. Connor being Connor Williams. He's missed the last 2 games, but reports are he was close to playing in both those games, And so based on that direction of the progression, I would venture to say that he will be available on Sunday. But again, just like the last injury question with David Long, we'll have a much, much better idea later on in the week as we get closer to kickoff. So I hope he'll be there because the Dolphins could certainly use him. He's been excellent at center all season long. And when he hasn't been in the lineup, the Dolphins surely have missed him. Want you to be honest with me and let me know, did the Dolphins need to make a trade at the deadline? Type Y for yes or N for no. I don't think they necessarily did. I'm happy with where this Dolphins roster is. You think Tua will win the MVP? I do. I think Tua is in the driver's seat for the most valuable player in the National Football League. And just like in my record prediction, I think this Dolphins team has some wins on the calendar in front of them. And coupled with those winning opportunities are chances for Tua to, I don't want to say pad the stats, but break out, continue to play the way that he has. Because this offense that Mike McDaniels and Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator, have been able to utilize is an offense that puts players of skill in positions and space to be successful. We see it time and time again with Tyreek Hill. Jaylen Waddle just had his best game of the season in over 120 yards receiving and the 1 touchdown. Raheem Mostert continues to get it done. You're going to get Devon Achane back after the bye week, and those are all weapons that can continue to help this Dolphins offense, continue to help Tua, and as this team continues to win, I think the offense will be a driving force behind that, and that means Tua is a driving force behind the offense and capable of winning the MVP. You could also start to make the case for Tyreek Hill because he potentially could become the NFL's first ever 2,000-yard receiver in one season, and if he does that, maybe Tyreek Hill becomes your NFL MVP. But great question. I think it happens. Woo! From Rackus, we are absolutely loaded. We sure need depth, but we are good. So not a question in there, but I completely agree. We're loaded. We're getting a lot healthier as the season goes along. We're going to get some guys back from some of those early injuries. And if the 6-2 record is any indication of what's to come, I'm excited about the direction of this team. And you got a couple of prove-it games there on the calendar, most notably coming right up, that game against the Chiefs in Germany with first place in the AFC on the line, 2 6-2 teams going at it, and I can't wait for that one. So let me know in the comments who you got. I want you to type D for Dolphins or C for Chiefs. You know I'm taking the Dolphins, and we will continue to get you ready for that game all week long on Dolphins Today. That's why you subscribe, youtube.com/DolphinsNews. And we will welcome you with open arms with daily Dolphins content, live shows, and, of course, live watch parties for every Dolphins game. And that's why you subscribe. So thanks, everybody, for your questions today. Love you guys. Love Dolphins and love Dolphins Today. Stay with us as we continue to get you ready for Dolphins Chiefs on Sunday on Dolphins Today. Woo! There we go. How about that mailbag? The NFL trade deadline is in the books, and Jackson Loves is in the chat, as is Brian35, as is Sherry May. And we've got a 2-minute shot clock accepting super chats, and then we say our farewells. What a day it's been, and I got to level with you. I did not wear the right shoes today. I got the dangerous Vans on. Sometimes I got the Ons on, on Cloud 9, and it just helps with the foot discomfort. But that's a little look behind the curtain. That's what we do here on Dolphins Today. And Jack Lauderay kept the Dolphins suit on all show. What a guy. You can't say enough about what he brings to the show, what he brings to the table. And even though the Dolphins didn't make a trade, I think it was a great day for the Miami Dolphins. And really the only trade that went down that impacts the Dolphins in terms of the division is the Buffalo Bills making that deal with the Green Bay Packers to bring in a cornerback. But I don't care who's playing at corner for the Bills. The next time the Dolphins play the Bills, you're going to see Tua torch that secondary because it'll be a bounce-back game, and that's what I'm talking about. But most notably, and coming up right in a few days, is that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs are coming off one of their worst losses, probably in recent time, for sure in the Mahomes era, regular season anyways. But anyways, enjoyed the show today. Shout out to badass Brian Aycock for his support of Dolphins Today, joining the Aqua Club. And I know he had to get back to work, but I'll put the hat on for him one more time because that was awesome. And the support with the Super Chats helps make Dolphins Today go, keeps the lights on here at Chat Sports, and helps us bring you more Dolphins coverage. So love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your Halloween. Stay safe. We're live tomorrow as well, so the fun just keeps on coming on Dolphins Today. So love you guys. Happy Halloween. Happy trade deadline. Go Dolphins. Go Dolphins Today. We'll see you tomorrow for another live show. Love you guys. Love you. Take it easy on Dolphins Today.